Okay, hi everyone. I am Katie. I am the director of programming here at Wicked Queer, and I curated the Comedy Shorts program. And I'm super excited to have at least one person from every film that we have in the program here to talk about their film and just how much it made me laugh. I've specifically, since I came on, have gone out of my way to make a comedy program because it's just something I'm drawn to. I think it's necessary within the queer space. Um, and I think I even found some of your films at other film festivals just because I always want to make sure I'm making the best program as possible. So within the ones that were submitted and me, finding you guys and tracking you down to submit, I think we put an amazing program together. So first I'd love to go around and just everyone kind of say what they did on the film. So let's start with Sam.
Oh, great. Hey, everyone. Yeah, thank you. By the way, Katie, thanks for that idea. That was super fun to watch everyone's work, and it's nice to see everyone. It's a wild and fun program you got. So thank you. My name's Sam McConnell. I'm the director of Brutal. Yeah. What else did you want to?
Where did you, because I mean, I read your director's statement and you said you kind of came up with the idea during COVID, but maybe just a little bit more how the concept came about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a collaboration with the writer named Nick Sidden. He's a friend of mine for a long time. We went to film school together. Yeah, post COVID and or during COVID and time of the insurrection, and we were like totally obsessed with news, kind of just watching cable news nonstop, and we thought there was a real ripe world there for satire, but also we were just always frustrated that they seemed to be concentrated on kind of the next shiny object, instead of things that we all thought were really important. So that was kind of the genesis of the idea. We came up with this fun character that Cheyenne Jackson plays, and kind of the world spun around him.
Awesome. Let's move on to Hit Friends. We have Sterling and Daniel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great.
Hello. I'm Daniel. I directed and co-wrote Hit Friends, and co-wrote it with Sterling, who came up with the original concept and then approached me with it, and then we wrote it together. So I'll kick it over to you, Sterling, so you can talk about the genesis of the concept.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sterling. I came up with this somehow and then brought it to Daniel, and he helped me make it way better than what I created. So and it was my first time to ever write, so it was really confusing and weird and everything, and so this is all very cool to me that I get to be here. So yeah,
an awesome block of shorts. So cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I don't know, I was on a plane, I was kind of drunk, and I had time to think of an idea, and for some reason I just saw in my mind like a trunk shutting. I was like, well, what's in the trunk? It's got to be a body. And then from there I just started going, and I wrote the whole thing. I think I wrote like 30 pages, like in probably in the 2-hour flight that I was on.
Yeah, it was like a stream of consciousness draft.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah. And then I gave it to Daniel, and he was like, there's stuff in here. So then we worked on it together and tidied it up, and then we shot it in 3 days, and it was like one of the best experiences ever. So it was so much fun.
It was hilarious. I will definitely have more questions for the both of you. Let's go on to, is it Aja? Is that correct? Inconvenience Crew?
Asia.
Asia, sorry. Yeah.
Hi, friends. My name is Asia. Her pronouns. I'm the DP for Inconvenience, starring our fabulous essay. Sorry, I'm on location right now filming a documentary for one of my friends' band. They're on Asian Man Records. And anything else that we're sharing today?
No, so you were the DP on Inconvenience?
Indeed, yes.
Love it.
We yeah, and we took it was a drama comedy directed by Alex Greenspan. Hi. It was great working with Alex. They really brought the comedic vision. Not enough queer comedies are out in the sphere right now, which is really important because we need to celebrate, the awkward moments that only we could laugh about.
Agreed. I totally agree. I mean, that's why I make the program. And Alex, what about
Right
you?
on.
Yeah, I am Alex. We also have Sauj here, who is the editor. And I'm the writer, director, and EP of the film. This is my debut short film. And so I wanted to do it right. I had been saving money to possibly go to film school, but I was like, I don't know if I am passionate enough yet. So let me just make a film first with that money, and then I'll find out from there. And so I got the most amazing crew, majority LGBTQ plus, and I learned from them so much. And this film is really like a testament to the community that we brought together to make this film.
That's awesome. That's something that's really important to us, not only have, the filmmakers making this film, identify some sort of in the queer space, but also if you have the chance to actually make your crew and I had that down, that's what you had put in your director's statement. I think that's, it's really awesome just to have that inclusivity. And I think it makes it really a safe space on set. So, and you said Sauj is the editor, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's so funny because Asia actually put me in touch with Alex, and because we had done a film together, and weirdly, we've never met in person. Like I worked on Waking Hour ages ago, and now this. And so it's really fun to see Asia, even like virtually, and maybe one day we'll meet. But I think to me, what is important about this film, especially as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time and dealt with a lot of stuff, it's so nice to be on a set that values collaboration in a deep way, and this community in a deep way, and safety on set, and just like being compassionate with one another. And that actually takes precedence for me, even sometimes over the content. I'm like, if we can get along, I'll edit anything, But I was very lucky to have amazing actors to cut, and play with their performances. And Alex was just so awesome, and being open to hearing feedback. And it's just like a wonderful space to be able to be an editor in.
That's awesome. Thank you. And we have some people from Open to It, correct?
Yes. Hi, my name is Frank Smith, Frank Arthur Smith professionally. And I'm the writer, actor, director, executive producer of Open to It, along with my fiance, Matt, who is the executive producer and art director, and directed episode 5, which none of you saw, so it will have to be a mystery for now.
And do you want to just give the overall? We played episode 1 actually at our festival last year, and it opened for in front of a feature. And now I have you back. I love having alums, throwing that out there. In the future, if you guys have films, send me an email. You don't have to pay. I just love having alums, submitting the work and keep showing queer content. But do you want to just, share overall the concept of the web series?
Yeah, no, thank you. And we're very excited to be back because Boston, Wicked Queer was our first festival ever with this, and I'm from Boston. So it's just a privilege to be able to show it to my family, which, they saw it, Open to It, fun for the whole family. But it's, it's about a couple exploring being open and the silly, sexy situations that arise from that, because I'd seen so many queer projects where that polyamory was always portrayed as this like heavy downtrodden thing. So the goal with the series is definitely like destigmatize that lifestyle and show like this can be a fun thing. The partners can like have these encounters that like go wrong sometime, but ultimately like their love is strong and we can laugh at it and not like fear for the future of the relationship. And with episode 4 in particular, we were lucky to get support to do more. Originally it started as just was short, and then 3 episodes, and now we've done 9 total. And this was one where I was like, okay, I feel ready to direct for the first time. I hadn't directed anything before, and I felt very supported by, you know, our cinematographer, our producers, my fiance Matt, who when I was acting would be behind the camera being like, the sex scenes don't look real, be better. So
Oh, I didn't realize this is the first one you directed.
Yeah.
See,
This
Frank,
was
I knew. I was like, that's why I picked episode 4.
this was D1 for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so do we have some people? Alice from Hen. Is there anyone else from Hen?
It is way too early in Australia for anyone else.
7 a.m., right? Is it earlier than
Yeah,
that?
and everyone that I worked with is a comedian. I'm not going to get them out of bed. They've been up doing gigs.
Thank you for waking up.
Oh my goodness, such a pleasure. Hello, everyone. My name's Alice. I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. I'm the writer and director of Hen, which, if you've not yet watched it, it's a grotty little funny horror movie about a bachelorette party, as you call it in the States, that turns really demonic. Because I find that as a queer person, even when I go to like the Hens parties of other queer people, they just turn like really like cis dick centric. So I wanted to like kind of capture that like odd horror that comes with it. And it was just such a pleasure to make. I got to make it with some really cool Australian comedians. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here because this is not only my debut film, this is my first festival in the States. So it's really, yeah, lovely to chat to you all.
If to quote you, you said turns into a cock goblin. Is that correct? You had that in your statement? Yes. Just
Yeah,
wanted
that's the technical
yeah,
term.
yeah. Awesome. Okay. And do we have some people from Hex, correct?
Yes. We have me, Heather, Mirona Nguyen, they, she. I'm the writer, one of the producers, and one of the lead actors of Hex. And then we have Zan.
I'm Zan, they, them. I'm one of the actors and co-producers of Hex, and Anne.
And
Hello.
you want to just talk a little bit about your film, just because I think so many people wish they could do this. But if you guys just want to get a little bit of background on the film.
Yeah. Also, our director Anne is here. If you want to.
Oh yes, Anne.
Yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm Anne. I'm the director of Hex the Patriarchy, She, They, and very excited to be part of this festival. And I'll let Heather explain the genesis of this story.
Great.
Yeah. It's like a love letter to my younger self and my best friend in middle school and high school when we were encountering different bullies, and we're hoping that we had magic to be able to combat them. And then growing up, finding out that all of our bullies and people who were bullied were all queer and trans. We didn't know. Wish that we did know when we were younger, and maybe that would have made things a little less painful. But it was just something that I thought would be very joyous, celebratory film.
Awesome. Okay. And digital warfare. Do we have Steph?
Hello, in case you couldn't tell, I left my poster in the background.
Love
here,
it,
so
love it.
Extra amplification. I'm Steph Farber. I co-wrote and directed and produced this film. I actually went to school in Boston and was living there a few years after I graduated. And I have like weirdly strong thumb muscles. And I remember just like joking about it with people. And it was my party trick, because how fun of a party trick is that? And so I had this idea of this person who kind of competed in this like underground thumb wrestling ring. And like that was like 10 years ago. And I never did anything with it. And then during the pandemic, I assume like most of you, kind of like itching to get my hands dirty with something. And I have drafts and drafts and drafts of like no content, but just this name, digital warfare, and this idea of thumbs. And I was like, all right, it's time to like sit down and get it done. And so, yeah, so we made this film about thumb wrestling and tried to just make it as like silly and fun as possible. And we had a predominantly queer cast and crew, so it was really awesome to get to work in that space. And yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did. Where in school did you go in Boston?
I went to Tufts and then
Okay.
I was living in Somerville for a few years after that. And I remember, I don't know if anyone's been to, there's this bar called the Independent in Union Square,
Yep,
and
yep,
you
yep,
have
yep.
to go like down a set of stairs to get in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I just had this vision of like, what if you went down those stairs and then instead of a bar, it was this like the wrestling ring, and it was like an after hours, like invite only kind of thing. So the inside of our brains is a really weird place to hang
It
out.
really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we have Snuff, Louise.
Yes, hello. I'm Louise. I'm the writer and director of Snuff. It's a rom-com by Snuff Films. So it's a lot.
It is really funny. It is.
Oh,
I was like, it's not what I was. I mean, I should be expecting from the name of the film, but then when I started playing it, I was like, okay. There's a lot of layers to it. It is, and it's really, really funny. Have I
Oh.
missed anybody? I think. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Oh, Neil, tell me something. Sorry, tell me something I don't know. Okay.
Sorry, that was really abrasive. But just answering the
No,
question.
no.
I am Neil. I wrote, directed, and acted in Tell Me Something I Don't Know, which is just a queer comedy thriller about a manic, menacing twink played by myself who brings his friends to the desert for his 25th birthday and asks them to tell him everything that they hate about him, which obviously doesn't go well. And yeah, it was just born out of like real friendships. And yeah, I had the idea for it my senior year of college, and then picked it back up in the pandemic because there was no shortage of time to think about all the things that I hate about myself. So yeah, but I really loved watching everyone's work, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. And I'll start with you since we're on you with one of my questions. Do you think Carrie actually learned anything by the end?
No.
Okay, and why not?
I mean, I guess like the whole aim of the film was really just like the ripple effects of how short-sighted narcissism can be, and I don't really think that like within the span of 12 hours anything has materially changed on that front, but maybe like a little further along after the credits roll. But yeah, I think that that's like the fun of it though, like knowing that like you're watching a character who's like self-indulgent and like cannot resist the temptation to like make everything about himself. And it feels just like watching a car crash and like not being able to like look away. And that was kind of like the masochistic sort of like fun, I don't know, part of like the script and like making the film that I think we all had like a really great time with. Yeah.
And that was lovely. I love the house that you guys filmed at. Where did you film it?
Thank you, because that was like half our budget. It was well, we intended for it to be set in Palm Springs, and we ideally like would have shot there if again we had the money to bring everyone out there, but it was just a really nice house in Sherman Oaks here in Los Angeles, like more toward like the valley. And we just like felt like the essence of the house like really communicated that sort of like the architecture of the houses that you kind of like see in the desert. And so like as soon as we scouted like many houses, but as soon as we walked into that one, we were like, this immediately communicates everything that we love about it. It feels like very sleek. It feels like very I don't know, like larger than life in a way where like it makes sense that this character would have gone through all the effort of like bringing all of his friends there to like a very remote and removed and just like going through all that effort to make that happen. So thank you.
Can I say something about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just really loved how you use genre to subvert tropes. You know, like there's so often you see the narcissist as like almost glorified sometimes in television and cinema, and like, oh my God, what are they going to do next? And it's about the gore and the spectacle. And you really play with that. Like when they pick up the knife and start popping the balloons and everyone's in the get against the refrigerator freaked out. But then the friend is like, stop it. Just like, stop. I thought that there was something really profound about like, okay, this toxic friend is going, and that she gets thrown. I don't know. It was just really funny and well done. So yeah, loved it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was, I guess, what we were going for. But yeah, we had a blast kind of like playing with the intersection of comedy and thriller. And I think it gave us a lot of like mileage to like, I know, not only as far as like the jokes and sort of like deepening like the dynamic of like that friend group, but also kind of like hopefully sticking the landing with something that was like a little more emotionally resonant, hopefully, or there was like something to kind of like take away from that. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, I have a question for the team from Hex. It was in your statement, it said it's a love letter to our younger selves who didn't know such an affirming story could be theirs. I know you had slightly kind of touched upon that, but I would just love to know a little bit more about the overall concept and how, and then when you saw it come together and you saw the end product, how it made you feel.
Ooh, I definitely I also wrote it within like a pandemic type of terms. There was like plans to go home for Thanksgiving, and then
a lot of writing happened in the pandemic with this group. I love it.
But my family is in San Jose, so it's like a trek to like get home. So all of the pent up being like, all right, I'm gonna go and be surrounded by love, and then we weren't able to do it, and I'd be like, what do I do with this? And then put channeling into a time where it was very confusing. In my head, I imagine like the sequence of events happening in my middle school. There's like a locker area. But I think it was really cool because Anna was in USC. We were able to film at like this interior locker room space that was much more, it was kind of, it captured a sense of suffocation of like being in like middle school and not being able to find a space where I felt understood. It was just me and my best friend together. And then high school also, but in a more magnified degree. And I think it was really cool to bring to life the magic in the bedroom. I think Anne could speak more to that. And then adding like the ending celebratory, just like queer euphoria. But
I know I loved the little going into the slow-mo, and it was just like, like you're at like a queer club. I loved the ending part.
Thanks. Anne, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, in regards to the witch sort of spell casting sleepover party, I just commend Heather for bringing on a witch consultant. And I think we were all really conscious and mindful of the intentionality around that scene, the rehearsal for that scene and preparing for it, and really selective around the items that we chose to focus on. And it was really moving to actively create a space of reverence and queer love and queer acceptance and queer friendship that felt really powerful. And so I believe that the care we took in creating that moment resonated through the piece. And I felt that was really valuable.
Yeah. And really quickly, just like commenting on just Heather's writing is so well done in the terms of it just fits the tone of the piece. Cause it's about these two high schoolers who they're upset that they're being bullied, but like their ultimate goal is not to they say, I want to kill them, but it's like not actually kill them, but just like, I just want them to be nice to me. Like, and that's such a high school way of thinking. It's like, I just want to get along. It's not that big of a deal. And they end up doing at the end. So it's just their tone that they were able to put into the piece, I think translated so well in the final product. And it was super exciting just knowing Heather and just like working on this process and just seeing how it all just made sense at the end. And that's always a hope that you want when filmmaking. So it was exciting just to see all it come together so well.
Yeah, and I loved how the dialogue kind of sped up, and I think it was your line. You're like, "I'm they them, and I'm demisexual," and it just was like it's just how it kept speeding up, and you guys kept going back and forth, and I think each of those point like really hit, and I just thought it was really funny. So with Snuff, Louise, I have a question of just your overall concept with this and kind of maybe the absurdity of having the snuff film, but it's kind of, you have a backdrop about the actual marital problems within the couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I always come back to in everything that I write or make is that no matter how extreme or bad something is, it's also boring. And that's because people are dumb. And that's great. I find it very life affirming because no matter how bad something is, there's also always like something kind of dumb about it. Like, because I was reading about snuff films, and I was thinking of like, who cleans up? Like, who does the bit after? Who scouts the location is like, oh, I know a dungeon to go to, and these are the directions to distribute to everyone. And like, life is just full of admin and shit. And it's very I think it's hilarious. And yeah, I kind of thought like snuff films are pretty extreme. And I was thinking about that of like, what happens when you go home at the end of the day, or your partner comes home and you're like, oh, a rough day at work. Was my kind of thought behind it, and also just wanting to make something silly and funny and gay and weird,
which is all of the above.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the casting and how? I mean, I emailed you after I'd seen it. I was like, oh my god, it's Saucery. Is that how you say it? Saucery. Saoirse. And if anyone hasn't watched Dairy Girls, it's unbelievable, and that's the lead is in Dairy Girls. I would love to know about the casting between the two leads and how you found them.
Yeah, so they kind of came about quite easily, bizarrely. I had was on quite a tight time frame with the budget from we were very luckily publicly funded for a very, very small amount of money from Northern Ireland Screen. But I reached out to my agency independent and in London here, and they actually have a casting department, and they sent us over a few names of people that they thought would be good for it and everything, and Saoirse was on the list, and I laughed about it with my producer, and I was like, that's hilarious that they think she would do this shit. And but I was like, oh, go ahead, like I'll put her, like, see what her availability is. And yeah, she came back and agreed, which was I mean, it was you know, it was very conventional in the end, but very funny. I still think it's funny because I still, you know, I'm a big fan of hers, and she's really wonderful to work with. So
that's amazing. I think one of my favorite lines was how you pillow princess, the pillow princess one, where you like, and you can say it's the first woman, and then you can show her the L word. That one made me laugh so much. That was a really good line.
Oh, thank you.
The team from Inconvenience. I would just like to ask, you know, a lot of times we don't necessarily get, you know, trans character leads like this. A lot of times the films we get is about transitioning, and this was just more about kind of the person, and then, you know, them falling, you know, for someone, and kind of the dynamics behind that. Can you just talk about the overall story?
Yeah, I'll start, and then I'll let Asia and Saoj chime in as well. The story originally also was written during the pandemic. It started actually as a play in a playwriting class, about two characters who seem like opposites but are still magnetically drawn to each other. And at the time I had also, well, I love meet cutes, and I thought what would be the most awkward meet cute would be like over a box of tampons. But if it was just like two girls, then we would just be like, okay, great. Like what kind of like heavy flow, like how you doing? Like what tips do you, it wouldn't be awkward. But if it was someone who was a trans man who was still on his period, and all of the complications internally with him grappling with still having his period, and meeting someone who is seeing him as he feels and as he wants to be perceived, but in a space where she thinks, oh, you must have a girlfriend, but that's really cool of you that you're so like cool with it. Like it just, I realized there was a lot of interesting things to play with there, but I also knew I couldn't tell this story on my own. So I sat on it for like a year and a half until I met Asa in an improv troupe that we were in, to take on the role of Kirby, and Amy as well to take on the role of Phoebe. And there were a lot of really great conversations we had all together, and with two trans consultants I brought on as well, talk about the story on really just like masculinity in general and perception. And one of the big things we talked about was even like audience perception of this character, like how mask presenting should they be, does it matter? And it was just really, really positive to have these dialogues and so many voices like as input as well. And then having Asa as the character and putting so much of themselves into, and their own experiences into their portrayal of Kirby. Asa and Saush, you got stuff to add?
Oh, me. Yeah, I love the idea of a meet cute. It follows such a splendid arc. Asa really evoked to me some more empathetic lens. I wanted them to, whenever I go into a project, my goal is to make everyone look the best they can with respect to the script. So in every scene, you kind of see, when they're vulnerable, you see more of themselves, and then when they're, a little insecure and trying to impress their leading lady, we want to cast them in the more masculine type. It's never really binary thinking, but that was the intention behind it, especially with his makeup, his costuming, and to the tone. So you'll notice, especially in the convenience store scenes, they're just lit a little more differently, and I think it worked. We used some various colors like red to evoke his strong feelings for this girl, and you'll notice I was just like placed mostly on his head to show where he was at this time.
Was the convenience store closed when you were filming it, or is it open?
Oh, indeed. Yeah, Haley, our producer, is great. Do you have anything to say about our excellent location? Thank you for finding it, Alex.
Oh yeah, it was. We were lucky to convince the convenience store to close an hour early each night. Haley did a great job with that. So basically it was 1 day shoot in the apartment and then 2 days of night shoots in the convenience store. And definitely could not have had all that equipment around customers. But shout out to New Upper Terrace Market in San Francisco for being amazing and even bringing us donuts one night on set.
You buy a lot of chips.
So many chaps. Saush, what about you?
Yeah. So one of the things I love that Alex did was like in having this idea that she wasn't like, well, I'm not the person to tell this story, that you really found a way to bring people in, invited people in, that it became kind of this collective storytelling that was really awesome to be a part of. And so by the time I'm getting the footage as an editor, I feel like there had been so much thought already put into so much of this that I really felt comfortable. It's like, oh, wow, they're really approaching this story from a collaborative position. So I felt very empowered to say, hey, you know, what about this idea? What about this idea? And both Alex and Haley were just so open, and it just felt really cool and collaborative in that way. And as somebody who teaches young undergrads who are often white, cis, het type students, they often get scared, you know, of thinking about stories that have anyone different than them. And they're scared by the discourse that's happening in society. And to me, this is like an example of like, no, we can tell stories. And what does it look like to collaborate across our different identities and to share this responsibility and to just be in community with each other? Like, it doesn't have to be, I don't know, that's just my take on it. And I just really loved the process. And it was, and like I said, Alex did such a good job with the actors. I felt like the two actors.
They just were like connected, and they really worked well off each other.
The chemistry was really palpable. And so it was just fun to play with that. And there was a lot of time spent. And I think because you gave Asa so much agency in that, it felt that much more authentic and real and vulnerable. And so, yeah, I appreciated that.
Awesome. So I have a question for Sam with Brutal. Why were all the names bleeped? Was that like, I would love to know the thought process behind that.
Behind the senator, thinly veiled senator from South Carolina. I mean, the idea there was that you know, we, aside from just we thought it was funny to hear that. You know, we didn't want this necessarily to be a hit piece on any one person, no matter how fun that might be. The point is that it could really be anyone. You know, there is someone we're alluding to. I'm sure it's very obvious, but you know, obviously over the years, and I'm sure into the future, there will be many a hypocritical Republican senator who's actively making legislation against the queer community, and of course they're you know, engaging in all kinds of things themselves. I mean, it happens every month. So yeah, that's why we didn't want it to just be about this one person.
And did you specifically have him not be able to see? Because then the people around him would be describing it, and the things that they are describing are what they're seeing is so absurd.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we came up with this conceit of having, you know, first of all, the character Jack that Cheyenne Jackson plays is just this kind of wildly egomaniacal anchor, and you know, that he has this process where he's dyeing his eyelashes, but can't open his eyes for 15 minutes, and that's the exact moment where this salacious sex scandal breaks, and they have this video. And of course, they're, you know, it's back and forth, and they're trying to debate what to do about it. But of course, the Jack can't see it. So, you know, we kind of had him as a stand-in for the audience, and you know, we consciously decided not to show any of the video, thinking that, you know, whatever the audience's imagination can be is obviously going to be more wild or funny or whatever than anything that we could have come up with.
I love the line, like, of course there's a waterbed.
Oh, thanks. We had a lot of fun with those. My favorite was working with Angelica Ross. Just hearing her delivery of some of these one-liners was just really funny.
Yeah, you had pretty you know, famous cast. Can you just talk about, you know, kind of getting them all together for this?
Yeah. I realized I was very lucky to get this cast. You know, while we were developing it and thinking about who we might be able to get to be in it, you know, we were just kind of looking at our immediate friend circle and people we knew. I've lived in LA for a while, and I happened to, you know, you meet a lot of actors and professionally and as social circles. I knew Cheyenne and got him the script. I was also friends with Johnny and Angelica, and had thought of them right away. Cheyenne, when Cheyenne came on, he was amazing. He loved the character so much, and when he came on board, he decided he wanted to produce too. He's really excited about starting to be a producer. So when he came on board as a producer, it really helped, seal the deal with a lot of the other actors. Everyone loves Cheyenne. He is, he is such a beautiful man inside and out, and everyone just wanted to work with him. So yeah, Drew, Johnny, Angelica came on board, and then Cheyenne was really helpful in getting us. He called his friends Rachel Harris and Matt Morrison, and they thought it was a lot of fun and came on board too. So yeah, I would have been thrilled if I had just one of them, and to have all of them in the same piece was really special. It was hard. The biggest challenge was just finding, a couple days where we could schedule it, just so everyone's schedules aligned. But luckily we did. So.
That's awesome. I know I was watching, I was like, I know him. And then I was like, he's from Hacks. And then you had like all these other people like come in, and I was like, wow. I was like, it was awesome.
Yeah. It was a fun group.
I bet. Cool. The team from Hit Friends. I loved how it started, just because you think it's this friendship, and then once it's about 2 minutes in and the trunk opens, you're like, okay, this is going a little different direction. But at the core of it is about someone who is self-obsessed, obsessed with Griner, obsessed with his appearance. So can you talk about kind of the two storylines that you have in there?
Yeah. For those who haven't seen it, it's about a pair of friends who have a falling out in their friendship when one of them reveals the other one went to Six Flags without them, and they're both assassins. So it happens while they're on a hit.
As happens every day,
Right.
I love how your password for the short is Six Flags.
Yeah. We obviously, like, the concept obviously has kind of like the structure of them being on a hit, and but when Sterling sent me the first initial draft of the script, it had kind of that base, the concept that they're assassins and they're on a hit, and at the core of it was the friendship. And I was like, cool, that's the heart of the film. Let's grow it from there. About what gets in the middle of these two. At the very, very, very end of his initial draft was a mention of someone going to Six Flags, and I was like, that's interesting. Let's put that at the beginning, and see what happens after that. You want to touch on that, Sterling?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I wouldn't say I'm like the character, but I'm like the character. Not anymore. I think it was a very cathartic, and I found out if you just write scripts, you don't have to go to therapy. And so that was a cool thing to learn. But no, I just did like a heightened version of what goes on in my head, and constantly, in his way of looking at it, is looking for love, versus an obsession to an app. And then I wanted to really highlight the beauty of a gay man and his best friend, and how powerful that is and what they can do. And I just thought it would be fun to see that combo in this hitman world, especially with someone as like cheery and cheerleader like as Kelly Jekyll from Pitch Perfect. So it was just like fun to see her be a killer and things like that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Six Flags, and I found when Daniel was interested in that part, I was like, oh, great, let's definitely plug that in.
Yeah, I was like, we need some rides he can say. He's like, oh, I got this. Boom, boom, boom. He like had a Rolodex of rides he knew off the back of his hand.
Yeah, I'm a golden one, so it was quite easy. But there was a lot of parts that were a lot of fun, and also iffy if we could do certain things, and because that to me is like a proof of concept. That's my pilot that I want to make a series, and every episode I want to take out, like episode 2 we kill a priest who obviously for obviously reasons, and episode 3 we just start killing all the disgusting people of the world that we see every day on the news that are after us, and then yet I want to kill them. So that's
I like the concept. I like the concept. So you said it's
But at the heart of it, is that moral dilemma of like,
yes, at the heart.
right? You're like, I just wanted to, but
yeah, but we were gonna kill him. Yeah, it's because it's good. Yeah.
So are you saying you have popcorn ceiling? Is that what you're saying, or that's just your character?
Tilt your camera, Sterling.
100% have popcorn ceiling. And I'm learning to love it because after this, I had no idea that was such a topic. My God, a lot of people feel the same way, especially here in Southern California. It's a very common style of sealing. And I really scratched on a very sensitive subject with a lot of people who there's been people that have referred me to roofing contractors who can remove it. It's like a whole thing. Now I'm just kind of like, it's an aesthetic that I'm not so mad at anymore. So
Oh, that's really funny. Okay, and Steph with digital warfare. One, I love the sweatband and the onesie. I just love the dynamic between the two sisters, and I just would like to know how you cast them, and is this based off, do you have a sister, or it's kind of what is this based off of?
Yeah, sure. So the younger sister, Kinsey, she was my co-writer, and we met from my first short film that I worked on. And we were writing it together, and the first draft was actually supposed to be about a couple. I fight with my girlfriend constantly about like who's gonna get up and wash dishes or make snacks or like do whatever it is. I'm sure you all have the same experience. And then as we were writing it and some of the like jokes and things we were getting into, I wanted them to get like really mad at each other. And I didn't really want to make a story about this couple getting really mad at each other because I feel like that tells a very different story. But when you see sisters or brothers or siblings like arguing with each other, I think it's something that's like pretty universal. And I think we also are more okay with the level of anger that it gets to, and like the history there, and going into like, you did this 15 years ago, but like I'm still holding a grudge about it. Like I think probably everyone has an example of something like that. So they're actually a married couple.
Okay.
And so it was like funny to have them play sisters, but again, I just like really didn't want to make a movie about this like couple like going at it, and especially with, I mean, it's not like super violent, it's thumb wrestling, but like her thumb does get cut, and there is this like kind of real anger going into it. And I thought that that would detract from the silliness if it was about this like couple. And so we thought, people beat their siblings up all the time, it's totally fine, like let's do this. So and then you see they like obviously know each other very intimately and have like good chemistry. So that was really fun. And I'd worked with Kinsey before, but I'd only known Mandy as the plays the older sister. I'd only known her like through Kinsey. So it was really awesome to get to work with both of them and like see how they play off of each other. And the person who played the MC, Jakiva, they all did like improv and stuff together. So I sort of came into this group of people who already knew how to play off of each other really well. Which was just really lucky for me because it made my job a lot easier because they all knew how to banter together.
I loved the look of the scenes like within the ring. Where did you film that?
Yeah, so I wanted this like big sort of boxing ring that had like really high ceilings, and in my mind I was like, we have like money's no problem, we can do whatever we want, we'll get this like amazing boxing gym, we'll have like 70 people in the crowd, it'll be awesome. And then Omicron hit, and my DP was like, I think we need to temper our expectations of being able to have an actual crowd here because we need to be concerned about health and safety. And then that boxing gym wanted us to pay like an absurd amount of money by the hour. So basically that whole idea got scrapped. And so I went around, it was filmed in Seattle, went around Seattle and just was kind of like looking for a gym that would essentially let us do it for free. And so we were able to find this gym that he like just gave us the keys for the night. He was like, just call me when you're done. I'll lock up, like have a good time, basically. And so it was really awesome. And we basically transformed a normal boxing ring into something that did feel fantastical. And we had the like signs that went on the bumpers to like really kind of like brand the ring. And I don't know how much you can tell or how closely you look, but we actually had spray painted these silver and gold pool noodles to put over the like rope of the ring, because it was a white floor and then like red and blue rope. And I was like, I don't really want this to look like an American flag boxing ring, which was like very much the aesthetic of the ring before. So we were like, how do we turn this like flag into just like a gay like boxing paradise? And so that was really fun. And I did feel really bad for our production designer, had like glitter on her hands and like in her car for like weeks afterward. So but
I didn't notice it was
good,
pool noodles, so
yeah.
That's really funny. That's awesome. Okay, and with open to it, Frank and Matt. One, I guess, Frank, how did it feel to direct your first episode? I guess will be my first question.
Yeah, it felt great. I was very lucky. It was the last day of filming where we did most of the scenes in that episode. So all the scenes I was in, I'd done the scenes with the other actors in previous days. And so we sort of knew going in, okay, like I'm in every scene, I'm directing every scene, and we just had a good plan of attack where like we would do 2 takes quickly, then I would watch playback, and then like I'd give some notes, the cinematographer would give some notes for camera, and then the producers would all weigh in too. So everybody was just on the same team. We were very organized and we moved pretty quickly, and it just felt like very fun, honestly. Like the team was really clicking. It was our final day, like, and some very silly scenes happened. Like we'd been rehearsing me falling out of bed with like a mat a few days before. And I was just like, it was funny though, because the first take, even though we rehearsed it, Tim, who plays my boyfriend, literally screamed. He was like, ah, and I was like, okay, that too real. It can't be scary. But we found the right level.
I think in this episode in particular, I think it's probably a fear of people if they're going to have some sort of threesome that they're going to be the one left out, right? And just you like sitting on the end of the bed like this, or like, am I, no, and then like you coming in with the water, like it was just like, I think was like my favorite like part of the episode for sure. But also with like, you know, you do this and you do it in a funny way, but it also does touch upon the fact that your boyfriend is upset because, you know, in the previous episode that you weren't there for him. And so it does have the funny element, but you also bring it back to, you know, somewhat of reality and the core of their relationship.
Yeah, originally, like in episode 3, I was going to have like my character Greg like not miss the talent show, and literally everybody talked me out of that. They were like, no, there needs to be some conflict. Like, but then I also felt like maybe because I didn't know we were going to be making more at that time, that I dealt with it in maybe a slightly cavalier way. So when we were able to do more, I was like, definitely like 4, I want them to have the serious conversation by the end. Like I want Cam to be able to have his revenge. Like, and I give Matt all the credit in the world, by the way, because one of my favorite shots is the push in when they're on the couch and it just slowly becomes Cam and Kenny and Greg's cut out of it. And that was something we post, because Matt was like, I think that would be funny if like Greg just keeps coming into their shot and coming out of it. So the magic of shooting 4K. But yeah, that was, and I love Tim. Tim is a great dramatic actor, and it felt like it helped us like get to the end of that arc in a satisfying way to be able to take it seriously for a minute before, of course, you know, Samoa eating.
Yeah, I think it's like it comes from truth of like, and anytime you're bringing in someone else, even in a like just 2 people, like things don't always weigh equally. So, and just the fear of missing out and the fear of like playing with that, but in a way that is still fun as opposed to sad was, I think, a lot of fun.
Yeah, like the original title for the episode was going to be Open to Twosomes because of what happened. Like episode one's open to threesomes, and there are a lot of like shots that are parallel between the two. But then I realized that sort of only covered one small part of it, and that's why it became Open to Voyeurism. Because to Matt's point about FOMO, like the women feel like they're missing out, not trying this. Like Princeton feels like he's missing out, not being part of their lives. And then Reggie suddenly cut out when Princeton and Elsa bond. So I felt like that hit at the theme of what we were trying to say much better.
And how was it like, working together as fiancés?
Honestly, well, so that worked out great because Matt is very helpful just in terms of being, one, encouraging and being very like gentle and reassuring. He knows how to give me a compliment sandwich. He's like, you're doing great. Here's what's absolutely not working. I love you. Go back at it. Actually, had so much fun working together on set that episode 9 is a Christmas special that brings back all these characters, and like we co-wrote and co-directed that one together and had a really nice time doing it. So I've been we have been together 8 years, and this is the first time we worked together, but I couldn't do it without him. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, I think honestly in the bet, like what worked the best about it is that we have communicated for 8 years, and we're making these series. We're making like 60 minutes of content in 5 days. So we're all about moving as fast and efficiently as possible. So I can say something that would come off to another actor as a little blunt, and it's like, this is what's going to get him there. And, so like, all about.
No one has any trouble being blunt with me. Like even in episode 1, when we have the bathroom scene at the end, our director, Greg, was like, we are behind. You have to get this take. Okay. But
that's awesome. Okay, and then we have Alice with Hen. I didn't see kind of the turn of them, kind of turning into straight monsters, if you will, at the party. And then I was like, what is she going to be taking out of her skin? What is that? Oh, it's a little penis. Of course it's a little penis. I'd love to just know your thought process behind that.
Oh, it was just pure logic. Like there's all you just get little penises under your skin. Nah, it was it's like a real like metaphor within a pimple of, I feel that when you're a queer person in like those real cis grotty spaces, like it just gets under your skin. So I just wanted to show that in the grossest way possible. And shout out to Lara, our wonderful, gorgeous FX person, just standing there with like one syringe filled with blood, one syringe filled with condensed milk pus, just to make it as gross as we wanted at any time.
Mm-hmm. And I loved your lead, Jem. What was the casting process with that?
Frankie's my whole heart. I love them so much. Frankie McNair, if you don't know them, they're just the best comedian, best person. I met them just through some mutual friends in the comedy scene, and just kind of was like, oh, that's my person. And I knew I wanted to make something with them. And I didn't have a script or anything, but I was just messaging them from the toilet, being like, I have an idea for a horror movie. Do you want to star in it and produce it? And they said yes. And then I wrote a script and we made a movie.
Simple as that. That's amazing. And what about the woman who plays the Bachelorette? How did you find her?
Oh, Mitch Swidrup is another amazing comedian. If anyone knows Auntie Donna, who's an Australian sketch group, she does a lot of stuff with them, and she's hilarious. I wrote the part with her in mind just because I'd seen her in these sketches, and she has the most amazing ability to be gentle and then totally barbaric at a split second, and I mean that is an absolute compliment because she's wonderful. And it was again another case of just DMing someone that I was fangirling over and being like, do you want to do something disgusting? And luckily she did, because she's a huge horror movie fan.
That's amazing. It is true, because it's like she starts so sweet in the beginning, then the straight friends come and she's taking that turn, and then the bathroom, you're like, okay, like where's this going? Like, is she gonna kill her? Is she gonna kill her with the cake? But I loved how it took that turn, and then and then she comes to her senses and they're about to leave. Where did you film it?
We filmed it at this beautiful venue called the Butterfly Club in the Melbourne City, which is, yeah, it's me old stomping ground. I love it there. I've done shows there for years, and it's this beautiful queer oasis, like bang next to the main train station. And I love the Butterfly Club for so many reasons, because they're so like queer and queer supporting, but also there's just so much kitsch on the wall all the time, which can either, depending on how much you love stuff, be like really beautiful or incredibly hellish, just to be having a martini and then seeing like an action man and a small chicken and Jesus. So yeah, we were very lucky to have all that stuff.
I did. I loved it. I loved that. And I loved the environment that it was shot in. I think it really was just kind of another character within the short itself.
Oh, it's a character. Could not recommend it enough. Pardon me?
Do you mind if I ask, was it hard to get the small penis to slide down the sink in the way it did? Because it almost looked like it was crawling on its own, and it was so disturbing and hilarious. And I wondered how easy that was to pull off.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. It kind of hit the sink in such a way, and me and the director of photography and one of the producers on it, Struthers, we just kind of watched it. We're like, oh, that's it. So then we just kind of like kept filling little penises with blood and dropping them, and then like watching them race like sea monkeys for a little bit.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would just like to open it up to you guys if you have questions, for, other people within the group. I'd love to hear it if you guys have questions. Don't be shy.
I've asked. Oh, sorry. I asked Steph this over text, but I'm gonna just say it here so that everyone, when is Digital Warfare's soundtrack gonna be on Spotify? Because it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I need to like look into like how to put songs on Spotify. So I'll just give a bit of context about the song. I, for that wrestling scene, like pictured "Eye of the Tiger" as the song that they were fighting to, but for a very low budget film, I was like, there's no chance that we're going to be able to license that. And I was like, I feel like we can't really just get like a stock song for this, because so much of this like does rely on like music to help make it really intense. And so my co-writer and I just like sat down and we were like, okay, we're just gonna write some lyrics and see what happens. And 2 hours later, we had written like the lyrics for the song. And then a friend of a friend is a composer, and so I was connected with him. And then he, like 3 days later, sent me like a first draft of the song all put together. And like, I have no music background. My girlfriend can attest to this, but I'll just like sing in the house when I'm doing things about nothing. And like sometimes I can go for like a full hour and make a song that kind of makes sense. And sometimes I lose it after like 2 bars. And so this was very much that, right? Like we were just able to kind of like take it all the way. And then when he gave us this song, I was just like, whoa, yesterday we had words and like today we have music. And like that whole process was really cool for me, because like I do love music so much, but I just like don't have that background. So it was really cool to get to explore something like totally out of my element for this film. And I'll put it on Spotify. I'll put it on my to-do list. I'll make it happen.
Awesome. Frank, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious, because obviously my thing is an episodic series, and Sterling was saying that his is envisioned as like, an episodic. I was curious what other people's visions were for their pieces. Is it like a glorious standalone? Is it like, proof of concept for a feature? Would it be adapted into an episodic? I'm curious because I have my own impressions, but I wonder what you all would say about them.
I'll say Brutal was always conceived as a comedy series. So yeah, we've kind of sketched out the first season, and all of the cast are on board. So yeah, we're using the short, as a standalone piece, but as something that we can use as kind of proof of concept.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was so funny. I saw Hen initially just as something cool to do, just a short film, like a little business card. But then I showed it to my mum and my grandma of all people. And they were like, oh, I want to know what happens next. And I'm like, there's no next. But then I had that little think, and I'm like, oh, it is a feature film. So hopefully, yeah, if anyone has a big bag of money, I'd love to make it into a feature.
It's like Get Out, The Bachelorette. It's perfect.
Oh my God, that is so good. I love that. Thank you. I'm stealing that.
Steal it, all yours.
With Inconvenience, it started as a play and then as a short film, but with the film and the feedback and just how much people love these characters and want to know what happens to them and how their relationship progresses, Haley and I have started working on a feature version of it. And again, we want this feature. One thing that's really important to me in storytelling is I want to make sure the story is like Kirby just happens to be trans, but that is not all that he is. And so I don't want that to be the focus of the story. And so we've been trying to figure out what situations can we put these characters into? How can we bring in a new friend for Phoebe, like someone from her side? And how can we also just bring more of Devin in as well and play with these characters in the San Francisco environment? So that's something that we're working on.
Yes, Kirby and Phoebe. Yes. Keep us posted.
And I won't tell you if they end up together or not long
If they
term.
don't, I'm going to be so mad.
Get off this Zoom.
I have a question for Neil about your process of the music, because I felt like the music was so much a part of the playing with genre. And so I'm curious about did you think about that before as you went into writing? Did it evolve with your composer?
Yeah, I'm really like particular about music, so that was kind of like our composer was part of the project like before we started shooting. But it was like a really tricky one to figure out, just because like you walk the line between comedy and thriller, and you don't want anything to be like excessively just like drawn out of parody. Like you don't want the comedy to undercut the tension. So yeah, it was really, I think like at first it was sort of like our wonderful composer Katya just like I sent her a playlist and like we talked extensively about it, and then she just sent like a first pass of the score. And I think like the goal with that was to try a lot of different things and see what worked against picture, as far as like instrumentation and just like varying levels of intensity. And then like there were 2 or 3 tracks that like in listening to that, I was like, this sounds really great and feels like it really works. And so then we kind of like used that as our North Star, so that like everything else evoked like the same instrumentation and sort of like atmosphere of like those few tracks that she put together. And then the rest of the passes were just like fine-tuning that.
Awesome. So we've kind of gone pretty long, and I am so excited that I got to talk to all of you guys. I know some of you will be in Boston next Sunday. Oh yes, we got to. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm gonna do another Q&A with you live when we're there. But we'll be. I'll definitely can't wait to meet you guys in person. And once the festival is done on the 9th, then this program will be available through Eventive. And so we'll make sure to send that information out if you guys want to send that out as well. And then please keep in touch with me with, any future projects you have. Again, we obviously love to have alums. And we really appreciate you guys taking the time, continuing to make queer content. And so thank you guys so much. The comedy program will be playing next Sunday at 4:30 at Arts Emerson. You can go to wickedqueer.org to see our lineup. And so thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.